Please welcome to the stage, from the Welsh perspective, Sheena Hague, Deputy Director, Network Management from Welsh Assembly.
Thanks, Richard. Just like to say good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for attending. As you can see, it's an absolute sellout. If you try to escape, I will call your name, so you're not getting out. I'm just going to go through a couple of slides with you today. As Roy mentioned, Andy, Roy and I have had a quick chat about trying to cover off quite a few things today. And for me, in terms of road networks, that's it. I've learnt when I joined the Welsh Government after about 16 years private sector experience that not to talk in sort of technical standard language. And what I like to think about road networks is that they do three things. One is they boost jobs and growth. They bring inward investment in. So they boost jobs, obviously, when you're building them, and then we get businesses into Wales and we can boost the economy. Actually, operating and maintaining the road network is the lifeblood of our economies. The trouble with road networks is, and I think as Dana from TfL says, that we're really good when we're invisible. And that's the problem. When something goes wrong, we know about it, we become front page news. But we need to make sure that we do keep our networks maintained and safe and free-flowing for all the public and businesses to use. The third one is that when we do it really well, we manage to attract some fantastic events into our countries. And it's a fantastic enabler for everybody's way of life. So I'm going to use those three themes as I go through the next 10 minutes and just sort of touch on a few things that the Welsh Government are undertaking at the moment. The first slide, under sort of the theme of boosting jobs and growth, are the strategic drivers. Now, don't worry about scribbling anything down. These are all on the website. And the first two red documents are a consequence of the new government coming into Wales this year, Labour majority, and this is the basis of their manifesto. And this is what they would like to do within Wales over the next 5 years. So they're quite good just to have a good read of those if you're thinking about putting any tenders into Welsh Government. The third document, the more colourful one with all the colourful blobs on it, is a new act that has been brought into Wales this year. Now, this is really quite innovative. This is like a kind of piece of glue for government, if you like. This is making sure that as you try and develop new initiatives for government, you actually try and piece them together. So if you do anything on the transport side, you need to go and check with your education colleagues and your health colleagues and your rural colleagues to make sure what you're doing is not going to adversely impact on them. So this is an act, it's a duty, and this is what needs to happen now in government going forward for any major decisions. So this is in Wales only. It's a piece of Welsh legislation. Following on then with jobs and growth and big projects, I've just sort of picked out a handful of schemes that Wales is involved with either at the moment or will be tendering in the next year or two. If you want the full programme of projects, it's in something called the National Finance Transport Plan, which can be downloaded from the website. So today, the big sort of quarry-looking picture is the A465, Heads of the Valley Road. It's under construction. As the name suggests, the topography is quite difficult. Huge civil engineering project to dual that piece of road and well over £300 million in cost. Today, or tonight I should say, on the Bringlass tunnels, we have a refurbishment project, which is the bottom corner photograph. And with this is about the economy and about making sure the commuters and everybody getting to work. So our chief economist did some calculations. And if we have Bringlass tunnels closed on the M4 coming into Wales, it costs around about £400,000 per hour. So what we're now doing with this project is that we're doing it overnight in a very short window, but the programme is 2 years long to get it actually refurbished. And this is the kind of decision-making that we need to take, which is that most of us as engineers would like to go in and hit it hard for 2 or 3 months, get it done and get out. Unfortunately, that's not what the road network's purpose is. The purpose is the lifeblood of the economy and to keep it going. And that's the reason why those decisions were made. The next one I can't say too much on, which is the M4. It's the relief road around Newport. It will be going to public inquiry next year, and I'll leave it at that. The other project that is underway for the South East box within Wales is the Metro, which is an integration project of heavy, light rail, bus transit, and also road improvements. It's about £700 million in cost. It's getting tied up with the new rail franchise for Wales as well, which is under tender. So I'll probably leave those two where they are in terms of given any further information because they are at the tender stage. But the big thing about these huge infrastructure projects is the growth in jobs and actually getting people that maybe have not worked before and actually getting apprentices into work. So once you've built your roads, what do you do with them? Well, in Wales, we are very keen to get more tourism into the country, and the picture you can see with the coastal walk is the first uninterrupted coastal path in the world. It's 870 miles. Derek, where are you going? And this is making sure that we're getting people to spend in the economy. It also has sections which can be used for cycling as well, and that's sort of our solution to walking and cycling in the rural areas. But we've gone further than that now in terms of walking and cycling within Wales, and we have another innovative act, which is under the Welsh legislation, which is the Active Travel Act. And this is trying to look at the long term. We have health issues, and we need to start to get the nation moving. And the way we need to do that is to build the infrastructure and get people either walking or cycling. Now, this document has been commended by DfT to all English highway authorities, and it places a duty on every highway authority to make sure that when you're considering any development control, or if you're going to go and change anything, that you must consider the walker and cyclist. And you will have to have a defensible argument if you've not put provision in. So this started about a year ago, and we're just working on those at the moment. Now, the thing I found with this is that when you're talking about walking and cycling all day long, it starts to get into your mindset. And Christmas this year, I decided to buy a road bike. And I know you're looking at me thinking I've got a cycling physique, but I then entered in, very naively, for the Cardiff Velothon, 140 kilometres. And I'm glad to say I did finish it, but it took me 9 hours. At the finish line, they'd already packed up. They had to rummage around to find me a medal. The other pertinent issue is I was on a hill moaning about the crosswinds, and a 92-year-old guy overtook me on his bike. And in my defense, he was wearing a yellow jersey, so that's okay. So the issue about having all of these acts and everything is about getting people moving, and I can honestly say, after my experience of doing that, is that you do feel healthier, and that's what we want to do, is get some lifestyle changes in and reduce the NHS bill, because governments have to pay for that, and there's one big pot of government funding, and we're trying to see how we can reduce where a lot of the revenue money is going across the country. So on to the second theme, which is the lifeblood of our economy. This is the Trunk Road motorway network of Wales. It's a £14 billion asset. The road network you see, there's actually only 5% of the whole road network within Wales. The other 95% is managed by the local authorities. And that's a pertinent point, what I'm going to talk to you about with the Trunk Road Agency review that I've been undertaking for the past 2 years. And that's to do with the routine and cyclical work that's been undertaken by the local authorities on behalf of the Welsh ministers. So the structure that we have in Wales to manage the roads throughout, obviously the Welsh ministers have a responsibility for the £14 billion asset. That then goes through Welsh Government, and we have contracts in place. Now, I've listed out most of the contracts on the roadside, but the one I would like to particularly look at is the Trunk Road agents. So they work on behalf of the Welsh ministers under an agreement under the Highways Act. They're also highway authorities, which means we can actually delegate statutory functions to them. It's not about asking for recommendation advice to sort of maybe sometimes in the private sector. We actually delegate those functions out. Now, on the routine side, one of the biggest issues that we have is the budgets are shrinking. The capital budget we're becoming more successful of trying to bid for, but the revenue budgets are becoming squeezed. And I think that's a problem across most governments within the UK at the moment. So the Trunk Road Agency review was scrutiny, basically, about where the cost base was for those agents. And I'm glad to say this year, as a result of that, we've now made a £6 million saving this year on our routine and cyclical work, with a £4 million risk pot, which I hold. I don't like other people holding the risk pot. Don't like zero rates either, or loaded rates, which is something that we've flushed out of the system now. And next year, we have a target of £8 million saving for our routine and cyclical work. So The next slide I've just got up there, just very high level, is that the red block is the block to look at. This is the core revenue allocation over the past 4 years, and as you can see, it's just shrinking down. The green blob is the blob that you always get a telephone call around about January time where some other government department can't spend their money and we're asked if we can spend it on the road network in the best weather possible. So I can't see the trend of the revenue budgets changing across governments in the UK. They are shrinking all the time, unless, of course, we can get some kind of further revenue income or generator. So moving on to the third theme, today is that when we get everything right and we run and operate and maintain our networks really well, we then start attracting in some really good events into our regions. And I'm really delighted to say for Wales, in June next year, we will be hosting the UEFA Champions League. This will be a 3-day event, the women's final on the Thursday, the Legends football game in Cardiff Bay on the Friday, and then the men's final in the Principality Stadium on the Saturday. So this one is an absolutely huge transport challenge. We will be maxing out on our road network, our rail network, bus, and anything else we can think of, airports, ports. The estimated visitors to the region are around about 200 to 400,000 visitors coming into Wales that week. That's based on the figures that were for Milan this year and Berlin last year, and those figures from UEFA. And UEFA have sent out #RoadToCardiff 2017. Now that I'm starting to look at the plan, I think it might be better to say bus to Cardiff, because I'm not quite sure how we're going to get everybody onto the road network, but we're working on that. So if you want to make a bit of money, next year in June, perhaps you want to clear out your back room, get your back room on Airbnb and become an Uber taxi driver, because we're going to need everything we've got to throw at that to make it a successful event. But the biggest issue with this is that it's estimated of bringing in about £45 million to the economy, just for that one event. So to finalise, and just in conclusion to come back to my original slide, I mean, it is absolutely vital that we maintain and operate and improve our road networks. But the reason we do it is to boost jobs and growth and attract inward investment. They are the lifeblood of our economy, and that means that they're safe and free-flowing and available for everybody. And they are a fantastic enabler for everybody's way of life. And I look forward to seeing you in Cardiff next year. Thank you very much.